Good morning. Good morning to all of you. I'm so glad you are with us for worship this morning. And I did see that we have a few visitors. So, welcome to those of you who are visiting the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston for the first time. You are so welcome here. A few weeks ago, I used the term BIPOC several times in my service. And I heard from a number of you that you were puzzled or maybe concerned about the term. Our new strategic plan that the membership approved in December intentionally uses that term BIPOC. It means Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And it's in our strategic goals. Your emails led the staff and I to having a very interesting conversation about words. And we began to be intrigued about how words affect how we think and how we feel socially, politically, spiritually. So we decided to focus today's worship on words matter. You'll be hearing that theme throughout the service. I've lit a special candle this morning in honor of our member, Eric Landberg, who passed away this Sunday. This week, not this Sunday. And we hold him and his family in our hearts. I'm also asking you with that candle to think about and remember in your hearts the more than 300 girls kidnapped this week from a boarding school in Nigeria, as well as the people of Syria and Iraq affected by this week's US military strike, and the people of Myanmar. We also are lighting it and holding in our hearts all those who have died of COVID-19 here in the US, the more than 500,000 people now, and those around the world and their grieving families. This morning, I'm leading worship with Linda Weaver, our Director of Religious Education, Cynthia Young, our Music Director, and accompanist Jesse Leong. Beth DiPasquale, our wonderful office director, is running the technical side of worship, and worship chair and congregant Kara Fortner is our usher this morning in the chat. Beth will also be hosting the breakout rooms after this service. I have a few announcements. Next Sunday after church, we'll be holding a newcomer orientation conversation with the minister after church during the breakout room time. And so for those of you who have been visiting and want to know more, please come. I'd love to actually meet you and have a chance to get to know you and answer any questions you may have. We'll also be using next week's breakout rooms for meetings of the neighborhood circle. So I hope all of you plan to stay online for, about 45 minutes after next week's service for a chance for some conversation. Next week is also the beginning of our stewardship campaign. You're going to be receiving a letter in the mail about your pledge this coming week. I'm really excited that next Sunday I will be joined by Barry Finkelstein, an expert in church stewardship who works with the UUA and who is also a friend of ours. Please also make sure that you mark down the night of March 13th for our wonderful stewardship gala. I hope you read in the e-blast that we have an amazing treat. The stewardship committee is bringing us a very special musician, Alan Naylor, an award-winning DC area pianist and musician and singer, who'll be creating a special program just for UUCR. So I hope you will plan to join us that night. So now, let us take some deep breaths. Seriously, join me. Take a deep breath. And settle into a time of worship as Jesse plays Song Without Words in E major by Mendelssohn. When I started to think about the topic of words, my mind started to search for a scene that I remembered from Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. This is actually from chapter 6. Alice comes upon Humpty Dumpty, who she recognizes from the nursery rhyme, and they begin a very funny conversation. It's actually a very funny book about names. Humpty says his name describes him perfectly, but Alice doesn't tell him anything about who she is. And then he uses the word glory, meaning to mean an argument. And so let me read you a little bit. But glory doesn't mean a knockdown argument, Alice objected. When I use a word, Humpty Dumpty said, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be the master? That's all. Alice was much too puzzled to say anything, so after a minute, Humpty Dumpty began again. They've a temper, some of them, particularly the verbs. Verbs are the proudest. Adjectives you can do anything with, but not verbs. However, I can manage the whole lot of them. Impenetrability. That's what I say. Impenetrability. Would you tell me, please, said Alice. What does that mean? Now you talk like a reasonable child, said Humpty Dumpty, looking very much pleased. I mean by impenetrability that we've had enough of this subject. And it would be just as well if you would mention what you're going to do next, as I suppose you're not going to stay here the rest of your life. Oh my, said Alice, that's a great deal to make one word mean. Humpty Dumpty said, when I make a word do a lot of work like that, I always pay it extra.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Young, and I am the music director at UUCR. Our opening hymn is number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Thank you to the singers who are leading us in singing this beautiful hymn this morning. Ali Sonovitsky, Lisa Gunderman, and Kara Fortner. The words will be in your chat box. Please join in with Jesse and our lovely trio.
morning. My name is Linda Weaver, and I am the Director of Religious Education at UUCR. As Reverend Debra lights the UU Reston chalice, you may wish to light a candle in your own home. Our chalice lighting words this morning are, "There is a Love" by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
In our church, we intentionally recommit to each other every Sunday by singing our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church. We will sing along with our UUCR congregation and choir virtual video. The words will appear in your chat box. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please accept this song as our blessing to you.
Now is the time for all ages, so gather round your screens. This morning, we are welcoming back Hope the Rabbit, and we will hear more about why words matter. Oh, hello, Hope. You look sad. Did something happen today? Do you want to tell me about it? Why are you following me? Who are you anyway, you weird hare? What? You're not a hare, you're a rabbit named Hope who wants to be called they instead of he or she. Whoa, did you hear what this hare with a ridiculously small nose and long ears said? How did you feel when Elephant said that? Oh, Hope, that is a beautiful heart. Oh, you want it back? What are you doing? Oh, you're using this heart to show how you felt. What Elephant said really did hurt a lot, didn't it? But there's more? I think we should call him Hop. That's a much better name for a hare. Hop, Hop. Quit following me. I don't want to be around a weird hare like you. The elephant calling you by the wrong name and pronouns really did hurt a lot, didn't it? I'm sorry about that, Hope. I think you are a good and kind friend, and I really like to be around you. I wonder if there's anything that we can do to help. What's that? Oh, me listening and caring and saying kind words helped some? I am really glad to hear that. I wonder if there's anything else that might help. I heard you talking, and I'm sorry I said those mean things, Hope. I was trying to be funny, and I didn't think about how you might feel. Now I wish I could take back my words. Oh, Hope, how are you feeling now? Oh, I see your heart is flatter, and it has a sticker on it, kind of like a Band-Aid. So other people caring And an apology from the person who hurt you can help make you feel better. But the heart doesn't look like it did at the start. So when someone says something that hurts another person, that hurt can last no matter what that person or anyone else says or does. Thank you for sharing your story, Hope. I know I will be more careful with my words from now on. Me too. And how about you? I hope you will think about the impact your words have on others. And I hope you will remember that no matter what other people may say to you, you are loved.
Oh, thank you, Miss Linda. That was so lovely. This is the time in our service when we invite you to light a virtual or a real candle in your home for a joy or a concern in your heart. You're invited to share those in the chat box. Just remember, please write to all attendees, and that anything you write will be public. We're going to continue to pilot a new way of doing this for us this morning. So I'm going to invite you to enter what's in your heart. Take the time to read each other's joys and concerns. And when you're done, let me invite you into your own time of prayer or meditation, if you prefer. Jesse is going to be playing for us Romance Without Words in A-flat major by Gabriel Fauré. And we will share the photo of our lit candles in our sanctuary. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life and love, be with us on this last day of February, on this gray morning. Let us enter into the silence of our hearts. Let us reach out with care and compassion for the loss of one among us, a kind, caring gentleman who gave this community so much. We also mourn with those who have lost a friend this week, a friend of a friend who lost parents, a congregant who lost her brother-in-law. All of the losses due to COVID. We stand in solidarity with those we know in our community are struggling with relationship issues and job issues and financial issues. There are times when all we can do is go from one day to the next, maybe 1 minute to the next, but let these people know that we are holding them in our hearts. And on this day, like every day, let us also have gratitude. Let us celebrate one among us turning 8. Let us celebrate all of those getting COVID shots, and yay to Ashby Ponds for making sure that every resident, every person there is vaccinated. We celebrate with Martha as she celebrates 5 years of surviving and being cancer-free. We celebrate one of our birthdays and other birthdays to come this week. And we send love and care and protection to the teachers among us returning to school. There is much to celebrate. The crocuses are coming out. The daffodils are pushing up. The trees are budding. Our long winter with COVID is coming to an end, we pray, as spring returns, as we turn towards new life, new days and joy. Surround us, dear Spirit. Fill us with love and hope and gratitude for each other, for this community, for one more day to do it again. We are blessed. Amen. And so may it be. And so this morning, I'm excited to share with you a special music video produced by my friend and colleague, Reggie Harris. Let me introduce him to you with words from his website. Uniquely committed to music as a community building vehicle, Reggie's music shares insightful perspectives on issues of life, history, education, and human rights. In the spirit of his mentors, Pete Seeger and Dr. Bernice Johnson, Reggie is a master song leader who loves to help people discover that they can make a difference at any age. Earlier this week, Reggie shared his new music video on his Facebook page, and I just knew I wanted to share it and also share Reggie with you. Here's his video. It's Who We Are. Enjoy.
In my heart, I do believe, oh, we shall overcome someday. Well, it's a plague on the nation. It's all across the news, splashed up in color for all the world to see. Our leaders say they're angry, the people are confused, so I guess this just comes down to you and me. It's a universal struggle, one fed by vicious lies. We've all been bought and sold for someone's gain. It's a mystical dilemma. It's a puzzle that defies our attempts to fit the pieces in the frame. So we stand before the mirror and we say, why? How did we get this way? It's who we are. Yeah, it's who we are. Well, you can blame the politicians. You can blame your neighbors too. You can blame the founding fathers for what their mothers didn't do. Well, the answer is quite simple. It's not hard to recognize. It's greed, it's self-indulgence, it's the fear of compromise. And a lot of introspection, where the truth is known to be. It's our choices that betray us. It's the lie that says we're free. And we stand before each other. We say, why? How did we get this way? It's who we are. Hey, this is who we are. Hey, it's not the be-all or the end-all. Vision by design. It's gonna take a revolution, and we're running out of time. It's who we are. Hey, this is who we are. Oh, but we can change. Hey, yes, we can change. Hey, but we can change. Hey, yes, we can change. Hey, we can change. Take up the challenge. Oh, I know. We hope to be. But we can change. Shape the future. Won't be easy. But we can change. Give up the notion. Run this race alone. Yes, we can change. Lift up the truth, 'cause we can't do this on our own. It's in our hearts, it's in our hands, it's in our minds. But we can change. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe. Oh, we shall overcome someday.
But we can change. Thank you to Reggie for that beautiful song. I hope some of you got up and danced a little bit. We are changing, and our language is changing all the time to reflect new ways of thinking, new ways of being, new ways of being together. So I'm going to invite you to think for a moment about some of the words perhaps you learned, like I did growing up, to describe people. You might not want to say these words aloud. Just pay attention to what comes into your mind. So think for a minute, fill in the blank. People with intellectual disabilities were called. People who were Black were called. Men who were same gender loving were called. Women who had sex before marriage were called. You get it. Some of the words that came into your mind might have been slurs that you wouldn't want to say aloud. But even the words in common parlance when I was growing up often othered people. Did you know that Easter Sales, for example, was founded as the National Society for Crippled Children? The ARC was the Association for Retarded Citizens until 1992. People were cancer victims, not survivors. Until the last quarter of the 20th century, in many states, Black people in the United States had colored listed as their race on their birth certificates. And queer was a derogatory expletive for a person who was gay. Do you remember this rhyme from childhood? Words my mother suggested that I tell myself when I was being bullied on the playground. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's not true, is it? In fact, I'm guessing for almost all of us, words have hurt us so much more than physical acts throughout our lives. Proverbs 25 says, words can be as harmful as hitting with an axe, wounding with a sword, and shooting with a sharp arrow. The words we use, as Linda's story says, the words we use to talk about people matter. Think about the difference between these words. We used to say that people were illegitimate children, and now we say children born out of wedlock. Think about defining other countries and their people as the axis of evil, or even worse, expletive whole countries. Think about the difference between the word alien and illegals used by the last administration, and that the new administration is using the word non-citizen. President Biden has actually proposed stripping the word alien from the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act to recognize the humanity of people seeking refuge and new homes in the US. Words matter. You may know linguist George Lakoff. He wrote a book for progressives devastated by the 2004 election of George Bush called Don't Think About an Elephant. And of course you just did. The book is about the importance of words to frame social and political discourse. He wrote, reframing is changing the way the public sees the world. It is changing what counts as common sense. Because language activates frames, new language is required for new frames. Thinking differently requires speaking differently. Our prior administration was positively Orwellian in its use of language. Do you remember that they removed the words LGBT and the words climate change from all government websites and documents? They even told the CDC and the NIH not to use the words science-based. Thankfully, the Biden administration has put those words back. And visitors to the Biden White House are being asked to provide their pronouns on their contact forms. She, he, or they. Press Secretary Jen Psaki, and oh my God, don't you love Jen Psaki? Press Secretary Jen Psaki said last week, the president has been clear to all of us. Words matter, tone matters, civility matters. Pronouns, my friends, matter. Surely if the White House can ask people their pronouns, we can learn to do that at UUCR. Most of us, I know, grew up with only two sets of personal pronouns, she, her, and he, his. But those don't work for people who are non-binary or genderqueer. After many years of cultural conversation, most non-binary, genderqueer, or gender fluid people are now using the singular they, their, and them. Although some people are still using non-standard pronouns, and there seem to be many, such as they, jur, co, fair, and I to describe themselves. Okay, I can feel some of you groaning in your homes or thinking, I'm a grammarian, I can't use a singular they. So I went to dictionary.com and Merriam-Webster to see what they said about they as a singular pronoun. Did you know that in 2019, Merriam-Webster chose the word, the singular they, as their 2019 word of the year? Here's what dictionary.com writes. They is not only a plural pronoun. They is also a singular pronoun, and it has been for centuries, as far back as the 1300s. They and its forms have been used. Dictionary.com continues. Chaucer, Shakespeare, Dickens, Austen, and many other beloved writers of the literary canon used an indefinite singular they. If it was good enough for them, then we at dictionary.com say, chill out, modern grammarians. So how do you know which pronouns to use with someone? You ask them. And you ask not just non-binary people whose gender you're a little unsure of, but you ask everyone. That's why the staff have their pronouns on their Zoom accounts for you to see and know which pronouns we use. That's why I hope when we do come back in person, we're going to put pronouns on our name tags, all of us. If there is someone not transgender or non-binary in your life, and their pronouns are they, them, please use them. Practice if you have to. Apologize if you misgender someone and tell them you're going to do better. You're going to try again. I promise you can learn to say they are going to the store and have it mean one person. As Reggie's saying, we can change. We have changed. I'm old enough to remember when second wave feminists asked people to use Ms. We didn't want to be known by our marital status. Men were never known by their marital status. The first use of Ms. actually goes back to 1901, but it wasn't until the 1970s that it caught on. I can remember eyes rolling as a young adult when I used Ms., but today, people don't think anything of it. We changed. Today, we're also being asked to consider using mix, that's MX period, for non-binary people. Mix in dictionary.com's word is, quote, a refreshingly neutral option to anyone who wants a title that can be used regardless of gender, age, or marital status. I'm wondering if you read this week about Hasbro. Hasbro changed the name of its popular toy, Mr. Potato Head, to just Potato Head. No gender needed. The potato never really did need a gender, right? So change can happen. So that brings me to BIPOC and the question some of you asked me. BIPOC, again, stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, and it has been gaining currency in progressive organizations, including the UUA, in the past year, particularly since George Floyd's murder. As an acronym, it is used, and I'm quoting the BIPOC Project, you can look that up, BIPOC Project, to highlight the unique relationship to whiteness that Indigenous and Black peoples have, which shapes the experience of and relationship to white supremacy for all people of color within a US context. The BIPOC Project aims to build an authentic and lasting solidarity among Black, Indigenous, and people of color in order to undo Native invisibility, anti-Blackness, dismantle white supremacy, and advance racial justice. So for those of us who are white, we can use BIPOC to demonstrate our understanding and our solidarity that far too many people in the US have been defined for far too long by their relationship to a white supremacist system of castes. Now, I want to be clear, BIPOC is an umbrella term about centering the experience of non-white people in the United States, especially for social justice. You don't use BIPOC to describe an individual. It doesn't substitute for talking specifically about people who are Black and issues affecting people who are Black, if that's what you're talking about. So just to be clear, Indigenous and people of color are also umbrella terms. Indigenous refers to the more than 550 recognized Indian nations. People of color refers to people who aren't white. That includes people from India, East Asia, Mexico, Central and South America, the Philippines, and other Pacific islands. It's always better to use specific terms when you're referring to people from a country or people from a specific tribe. We use BIPOC as an umbrella term for a racial justice lens. We need to use specific identities for specific issues or initiatives, or when we're describing an individual. Now, I know some of you are feeling like, Reverend Debra, this is too much. Don't ask me to do this. I can't do this. I remind you of Reggie's words. We can change. You can change. I know we can change. Words change how we think. To paraphrase Gandhi, we can be the change we wish for in the world. This past summer, we offered a worship service, you may remember, on probably my book of the year, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She writes about trying to learn the tribal language that had been denied to her as a child when her family was forced to only use English. She tells us that unlike English, 70% of Potawatomi words are verbs. There is no noun, for example, for Saturday. It is to be a Saturday. There's no word for hill. It's to be a hill. There's no word for bay, to be a bay. She struggles with that idea of verbs rather than nouns. And then she says, when she's thinking about to be a bay, she suddenly gets it. This is what she writes. In that moment, I could smell the water of the bay, watch it rock against the shore and hear it sift into the sand. A bay is a noun only if the water is dead. When a bay is a noun, it's defined by humans, trapped between its shores and contained by the word. But the verb, wikawagama, to be a bay, releases the water from bondage and lets it live. To be a bay holds the wonder that for this moment, the living water has decided to shelter itself between these shores, conversing with cedar roots and a flock of baby birds. Because it could do otherwise. It could become a stream or an ocean or a waterfall. Isn't that beautiful? And doesn't it change how you think about the word bay? It's as if the bay is speaking to us. What is even more important, though, is yes, words can change our thoughts, but they can also change how we make people feel. Asking people to tell us what they want to be called, how they want to be addressed, how they want to be acknowledged changes us and changes them. As I teach in my sexuality classes, we must accept that people are who they say they are. I'm going to say that again. People are who they say they are. We can use their names, their labels, and the acronyms they ask us to use. Our words acknowledge other people's hearts and indeed their very existence. Our words can say, you are who you say you are. I believe you. I honor you. I see you. I welcome you. I love you. Such words are, in the words of Proverbs 18, life-giving water. My friends, may we all be willing to change and change again when people ask us to. May our hearts be in our holy place. May our words bless each other. Cynthia, you're on mute.
Oh, there we go. I'd like to invite you to join us in singing our closing hymn, Turn the World Around. Thank you so much to Laura Weiss, music director at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax, for sharing this beautiful video with us. The words will be in the video, so please join along with our friends at UU of Fairfax.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around.
We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around.
Oh, so is life. Oh, sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit, only can the spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life, whoa, so is life. Whoa, so is life, whoa, so is life. Whoa, so is life, whoa, so is life. Whoa, so is life, whoa, hey, so is life.
I hope you were dancing. I was dancing. That was so fun. And thank you to Fairfax for, we have been, Cynthia and her colleagues have been sharing music among each other, and it's so great. The closing words this morning are from this amazing poem that I found called Words That Build Bridges Towards a New Tongue. They're by a poet whose name is Quincy Troop, who is a poet, a writer. He is also the editor of the Black journal Renaissance Noir, the publication of the Department of Africana Studies at New York University. The whole poem is way too long for me to read in its entirety, but we will put the link to it in the e-blast this week, because I'd love for you to read all of it. But some of the stanzas were perfect for our closing words. Someday, in this moment of time when everything is evolving, right now, from key tips of tongues, a new language is waiting for you to discover this. For you to give it some props, to speak it, to wrap your tongue around it, to roll it off your assembly line of new expressions. So give it up for the new, right here, right now. Speak it. Don't diss it. Give the new some props right now. Freak it out with your own dash of flavor. Say what's up in the air as sound. Now know it is rooted and shaped in the vortex of truth. Change constant with language and words, sounds and attitudes now. Say what's birthing in the womb of air now. Say it. What is birthing in the womb of air now? Words that build bridges towards a new tongue.
Come gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that it's soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again, and don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming, for the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand, and your sons and your daughters are beyond your command, and your road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend a hand, for the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slowest now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. If your order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changin'.
Thank you, Jesse. The times, my friends, they are changing, and we can change too. Our worship service is coming to a close. Before we start our breakout rooms, we ask you to make your contribution to our virtual collection plate at the link on the slide that will come up, or the link that Carol will put in the chat box, or by mailing in your check and writing collection in the memo line. We hope you will stay on for the breakout rooms after Jesse finishes playing for us, and that you'll talk about what you think. How do these changing words, what do they mean to you? Can you try? We also invite you to use now the chat box as a virtual reception line. If you'd like to leave us a message about the service, and I've seen a few of them, please feel free to type it into the chat box now. Please know your words of appreciation mean so much to me and to the rest of the worship team. Before we put up the offering slide, let me close the service, by saying the words I end with each week. My friends, go in peace. May your real service begin.